just had one of these. Why the hell are we getting another? Okay, so for some reason, we're getting another Arcane Combat Drills event. I can't say that I like this at all, but unfortunately, it is what it is. If this isn't your first rodeo, feel free to skip to the map overviews, or if you want, I have all tile info written on my website, which will be linked below. If this is the first time you're touching these, it's literally just a whole slew of battles to get to the final boss, Trein. To get to him, you have to work your way through the map by clearing every tile in your path. You don't have to beat every tile before Trein, but you do have to progress through the map and traverse it, and some of those tiles have battles. These battles all require a victory, so they all have infinite turns. If your team loses a battle, you have to pick a new team and go back into the battle. The enemy's HP doesn't reset though, so that's nice. If you get an enemy down to 10,000 HP from 40,000, but you lose, in the next attempt the enemy will have 10,000 HP still. One of the few mercies of this event. In order to go from tile to tile though, in addition to winning, you need to use energy or move tickets. You can't speedrun the maps easily. You have to use one energy or one move ticket to challenge a space in the first place. The amount of energy you can have at one time is 10, but you can have loads of move tickets as you earn them from completing missions, from completing certain tiles, etc. It takes an hour for one energy to regenerate on its own, so you're going to be using a lot of move tickets. Our event card is Professor Trein. He's unfortunately not given out for free, you have to pull for him, but if you manage to get him, he's an extra unit you can use in this event. If you don't get him though, he's not even a trial guest unit for you, so that sucks. Also, if you do want to use him in this event, and you got him, make sure to build him immediately. The game uses your Trein, so if he's level 2, he's level 2 for the event. There's a total of 7 maps for us to get through. Maps can have 1 to 3 mini-bosses and then 1 final boss, which for this event is cruel, like I've been saying. The number of tiles varies greatly between maps, so I'll discuss them a bit later. Now, I know you guys are gonna want to make a beeline for the boss and defeat him ASAP. However, depending on the map, that might not be the best strategy. This situation is kind of complicated. Reasons to not rush to the boss is because if you don't do all the tiles in a map and you beat it, you don't get all of the rewards. The map resets, so you have to go back in to do all the tiles you missed. Winning a map doesn't mean you get all the rewards, it just means you get the rewards for the tiles you beat. So theoretically, you would have to waste your time going back in when you could have taken your time in the first place and maybe gotten it done a little faster. This is a limited time event and the time frame is so short that you really need to be careful about how you're spending your time. So going back and redoing a map multiple times is a little sketch, you know? The other reason is some tiles on the map will give you buffs against the boss, and since the bosses are usually a pretty high difficulty, these are really helpful. You may have to go out of your way to get them, so if you're heading straight to the boss, you might miss them. For the easier maps, this isn't really a make or break point, but I think for the higher level ones, it would be a bad decision to miss these buff tiles. Like I said, I think this isn't as cut and dry anymore. I do think you should take your time within reason, but I think that applies more to the lower level maps. I think going through all or most of the tiles for maps you know you can do is the better choice. But admittedly, as the maps get harder, this strategy becomes less viable. Battles could end up taking a lot of teams of sacrificial lambs, so you do have to pick and choose what tiles to do, in addition to making sure you have enough units for the boss. I think my new advice would be do all the tiles and maps where you're having an easy time, but when you start to struggle beating mini-bosses or just regular tiles, that means it's time to start being more selective about what battles to pick. One piece of advice that hasn't changed, though, is think about your priorities for this event before you go into it. These events are difficult. I would not call my roster on JP bad by any stretch, and I have yet to beat a battle map event. I'm not saying this to scare you, I'm telling you this because I want you to be prepared and have some sort of expectation going in. Also, I just realized I did not put this anywhere in my guide. Whoops. But it looks like EN is not making this event easier. Sometimes EN will lower amounts needed to unlock cards or whatever, or they'll make things a little bit easier when it comes to events. They are not doing that for these, so be prepared. I know most people are gonna want to finish the event. Last JP event, I got really close to beating map 7 and it felt awful that I wasn't able to beat Trein. But these events are very difficult, and you need to ask yourself why you're playing this event. Are you doing it for the rewards? Are you doing it for fun? Are you doing it for the title? All of these are valid reasons to play, but they're going to impact how you play this event. If you're playing for rewards, at some point you're going to have to quit unless you have an insanely good card roster with like everyone fully built or something. The game gives you rare rewards like SSR Awakening Perfumes and retry tickets. You're going to want to try and keep enough units around for the boss, but also make sure you hit all the tiles with the rewards you want. If you're doing this for the title, you're going to need to be extremely strategic in planning moves ahead of time to ensure you have the best chance of getting to and beating map 7. You're probably not going to want to go through every tile on the map, even less difficult ones, because you need to make sure you have everything ready for the map 7 boss. This event is a giant time sink, so you're going to have to save up as many move tickets as possible for the final map or two, just to ensure you have enough time. Higher level maps can have really stupid layouts, so 1, you're gonna need to ensure you have as many chances to beat enemies as possible, but also 2, make sure you have enough stuff to be able to traverse the map in a good time. Period. Some maps really make you go out of the way. If you're doing this for fun, there's nothing really to say, you're just having fun. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about each map individually. As a reminder, I'll have these maps and tables giving important details of the tiles on my blog, which will be linked below. I'm not going to go over every single tile just because I don't want to be here for hours. But we'll cover the basics of each map. Map 1 has 10 tiles and you're able to pick 5 characters to make teams out of. Enemy buffs for this map are Healing and Curse. Both annoying, but pretty manageable. Most of the battles are at either a 1 or a 2 difficulty. That makes up 62.5% of battles. There's a very slight skewing towards water units in these battles. There's like an 8% difference between that and Flora and Fire, so you may want to consider bringing some units with Flora spells with you. Most of the battles, though, it's either Water Fire or Water Fire Flora, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend bringing loads of Mono Flora units, but maybe 1 or 2 would be nice. Granted, you're also bringing some other units to balance it out, since Mono Flora is going to be at a disadvantage for some of these battles. Tile 7 is the boss battle. Trein has Curse, uses all elements, and has 57,000 HP, which is a giant leap from the other battles in this map. Our buff tiles are 2 with a modest power boost and 10 with a modest power drain to the boss. There's no healing tile in this map, so that sucks. Other notable tiles are 8, which gives you 20 gems, and 9, which gives you 2 move tickets. Other prices in this map are bottles of star shards, jugs of blooming honey, and pots of friendship tea, which they should have called best tea, but I digress. Map 2 has 20 tiles, and again, picking 5 characters to make teams out of. Enemy buffs are Burn, Curse, Healing, and Blind. When it comes to difficulty distribution, battles are more likely to be a 2 or a 3, although ones aren't super far off. Those are all in the 20s range. For elements like the last map, water's pretty present in a lot of battles. But also like the last map, I wouldn't load up on Mono Flora units, since those battles aren't Mono Water ones. They're always attached to another element. My advice for map 1 applies to map 2 as well. Tile 19 is the boss tile. Trein has Burn and Curse, uses all elements, and has 64,000 HP. Again, a massive jump compared to other battles. Buff tiles are 2 with a modest damage boost, 6 with Nullify Curse for 3 turns, 20 with a modest damage cut to boss, and 10 which is the only healing tile. Other notable tiles are 8 with 1, SSR Awakening Perfume, and 16 with 4 move tickets. Other goodies in this map are bottles of moon shards, jugs of blooming honey, pots of friendship tea, green notepads, and green textbooks. Map 3 has 25 tiles and you'll be choosing 6 characters to make teams from. Enemy buffs for this map are Curse, Burn, Healing, Blind, Freeze, and Evasion. Ogh. That's all I have to say. Difficulty for this map is skewed towards the 2s and 3s, with 3s more likely at 38.1%, 2 is 23.8%, and everything else is below that. Once again, the element distribution leans more towards water, but there's also a rise in Flora units. Like I've said for the past 2 maps though, I don't think loading up on a certain element and that element only is a good idea. I don't know why it didn't occur to me to check this until just now, but there's no single element battles in this event at all, at least that I have written down. There are some element and void battles, but the overwhelming majority of battles have more than one element. So, yeah. I would consider making sure you have people to go against Water Flora, but I wouldn't overload on one element over another. Tile 20 is the boss tile. Trein has 86,000 HP, evasion, and water, flora, and void spells. He's not the only unit with evasion in this map, there's one other one, but I would definitely keep in mind that you're gonna have to make sure you can survive for a while in this fight, and also be extremely careful about when you deploy duo magic. Our special buff tiles are 6 with a modest fire boost, 10 with minor burn for 3 turns, 11 with freeze for 3 turns on the boss battle, 12 with a major flora damage cut to boss, 22 with a modest crit chance, and 24 is our healing tile. Some rewards to look out for are gems, which you can get on tile 25, and memory medals and move tickets, which are both conveniently on 18. Other goodies in this map are bottles of sun shards, jugs of blooming honey, cat candy, thou marks, elegant stickers, unique stickers, fire textbooks, and fire notepads. Map 4 has 30 tiles, and you get to choose 6 characters to make teams from. Enemy buffs present are Curse, Burn, Evasion, Freeze, Guts, Healing, Debuff Removal, and quote, something I don't know. I don't know why my note-taking for these events is always so bad, but oops. There's a surprise buff. It's probably vulnerability or something since that's in other maps, but yeah, I don't know, man. Again, battles are more likely to be a 2 or 3 difficulty. For elements, water again reigns supreme, but yeah, like you already know my advice regarding that. The boss tile is 30, he has freeze and healing, 108,000 HP, and water, flora, and void spells. Boo. At least he doesn't have debuff removal, I guess, but still. Our other buff tiles are 2 with a minor power boost, 6 with a modest damage cut to boss, 9 with a major flora boost, 11 with minor evasion, 16 with a modest vulnerability to boss. I wrote it as damage received boost, but I'm pretty sure it's vulnerability. And 27, which is a healing tile. The most notable reward tiles, in my opinion, are 17 with memory medals and move tickets, 22 with a retry ticket, and 24 with an SSR Awakening Perfume. Other rewards in this map are green textbooks, thou marks, jugs of honey, blue textbooks, blue notepads, basic stickers, unique stickers, white textbooks, and white notepads. Map 5 has 35 tiles, and you can pick 7 characters to make teams from. So, a quick word before we get into enemy buffs. I kinda touched on this in the previous map. There are some skills I can never remember the English name for, and so I write it literally in my notes. So in this map, I wrote more damage received for a lot of enemy buffs. Now, I'm pretty sure this is referring to vulnerability, because I think I wrote more damage received as a skill for Malleus's Clubwear card, and it ended up being vulnerability. So yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's vulnerability, but I just wanted to give the heads up that I'm not 100% certain. Anyways, enemy debuffs for this map are Guts, Vulnerability, allegedly, Burn, Evasion, Curse, Blind, Freeze, Healing, and Debuff Removal. And like the last map, there's 2 buffs I just wrote down as question mark and something buff. Maybe I'll get my shit together when the 4th Magic Assault practice event comes around. Again, when it comes to difficulty, we have a lot of 2s and 3s, with 2s actually being more prevalent this time around. Element distribution is basically the same case with all the other maps so far. Water's in a lot of battles, as is flora. Although here, flora and fire are fairly close to each other in percentages. Our boss tile is 15. Trein has 135,000 HP, which is not the highest HP on the map. Water, flora, and void spells, and healing, blind, curse, and another mystery skill. Buff tiles are 13 with a major damage boost, 18 with a tiny burn for 3 turns, 28 with nullify blind, 33 with modest vulnerability for the boss battle, and 34 with curse for 3 turns for Trein. Healing tiles are 8 and 21. Noteworthy reward tiles are 3 with a retry ticket, 25 with memory medals and move tickets, and 30 with gems. Other rewards in this map are stylish stickers, cute stickers, green grimoires, jugs of blooming honey, thou marks, white textbooks, red textbooks, and green textbooks. Map 6 lets you pick 7 characters to make teams from, and the map has 40 tiles. Enemy buffs are Curse, Evasion, Guts, Vulnerability, Freeze, Healing, Blind, and Burn. Again, with difficulties, you're mostly going to run into 2s and 3s, and element distribution is pretty much the same as all previous maps. The boss tile is 22. Thankfully, Trein has no extra buffs, but he does have 178,000 HP, and water and flora spells. I guess we have to count our blessings when we get them, right? Buff tiles are 3 with nullify freeze for 3 turns, 7 with a minor blind for 3 turns for the boss, 13 with nullify curse for 3 turns, 20 with a major power boost, 27 with a modest power boost, and 39 with a modest damage cut to the boss. Healing tiles are 19, 36, and 38. So, super special rewards. Tile 9 has a retry ticket, 12 has memory medals and move tickets, and 40 has an SSR Awakening perfume. Other rewards in the map are Thou Marks, Jugs of Honey, Stylish Stickers, Elegant Stickers, Blue Grimoires, White Grimoires, and Red Grimoires. Map 7, the final map that I was so close to beating, has 45 tiles and you get 10 characters to choose for team building. Enemy buffs are Curse, Blind, Freeze, Healing, Evasion, Debuff Removal, Guts, Burn, Elemental Damage debuff, that is exactly what I wrote in my notes. I don't know if that's what they call it in the end, but that's what I wrote. And then, another skill that I'm gonna be honest, I'm confused about, but I'll talk about that later because it's Trein specific, so we'll move on for now. Most battles are in the 3 to 4 range when it comes to difficulty. For elements, water and flora are still on top. The boss tile is 22. Trein's HP is 208,000, not the highest in the map, and he's Flora Void. So, he has debuff removal and then okay, so I wrote down that he has Nullify Elemental Damage, but here's the thing. Part of why I didn't beat this map is because he has a skill that renders all damage as 0, so you'll hit him and it does absolutely nothing. I don't think Nullify Elemental Damage will completely ruin your spell, so I think that it might be his resistance that's making all hits 0, but I will admit I'm not super familiar with resistance as a skill because I don't use it ever, or maybe I just read something wrong. Honestly, I don't even know if I have any units with resistance now that I think about it. But anyways, my bottom line is that he has a skill that will render any spell you throw at him completely useless. He doesn't invoke it every single turn, but you know what, I got hit with it a lot, I'm just gonna say that. So you need to be very careful with deploying duo magic for this fight. I cannot count how many times that skill got me. Buff tiles on this map are 5 with a minor HP regeneration, 12 which I think is Modest Blind for 3 turns, 24 with a tremendous flora damage, I'm assuming cut to the boss. I did not write down if it was a cut or boost and I can't find any other info, so oops. 25 with a modest power drain, 29 with a modest crit chance, and 36 with freeze for 3 turns for the boss. Healing tiles are 11, 40, and 44. Special reward tiles are 15 with memory medals and 43 with gems. Other special rewards in this map are Blue Grimoires, Thou Marks, Jugs of Blooming Honey, Basic Stickers, Cute Stickers, Red Grimoires, Green Grimoires, and White Grimoires. And that's a brief-ish overview of the event. I can't say that I'm excited for these events. If you want to hear me complain about these events for 20 minutes, I have a video explaining my issues with the Arcane combat drills. Before I go, I'd like to give a big shout out and thank you to my ladyfingers in waiting who support me and allow me to continue to do this. A massive thank you and telepathic snacky treat to my ladyfingers in waiting as of July 2nd, 2025, Michgal2189, Visa, Omimi, Annette, Kayla, Richter32, Ukaku, Yungumo, Crabjail, Lady Lunarine, Goose Farms, Yorzaba Kisaki, and Farah Foe. Thank you guys! And if you made it this far too, thank you! Good luck with this event, guys, and I'll see y'all later.